Hey folks, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm. Happy Sunday. It's like 4:17 right now, and the reason I'm up is because I woke up because I gotta be at work at 6, so there's a pretty short video. So I have been getting some videos from people that are putting their 2 cents into does audiobooks count as reading books? And so, hold on a second here. So, I don't know if it's. I don't know why I get these kinds of videos. I don't. I have made my views known several times that I do count audiobooks as actual reading. I count audiobooks, or finishing audiobooks, as the same as finishing a book because, um, because you're listening to a book that's being read by somebody, and for a lot of people, that is their enjoyment. They will walk to work, listen to an audiobook, like I do that. Um, they will listen to a audiobook while they're doing laundry or while they're taking a bath or whatever, or driving to work. And for a lot of people, this is how they read. This is how they are exposed to new ideas. This is how they're exposed to this or exposed to that. So I have mentioned before that audiobooks was the only way that I could get my mother to read anything that was not on a computer, and how that was most valuable for me to have that particular mode to which she could listen to books like the Cat Who series and everything. But let's actually talk about this in a much more like historical sense, or like how we used to have our views shaped and formed over the centuries. This is not gonna be a long video. I'm not gonna make this a long video because I'm only leaving at 5, so I can eat breakfast and they'll clock in. So so anytime that I hear someone say that they do not view audiobooks as actual reading books, or just say they don't count audiobooks as like, okay, you listen to an audiobook and therefore you've read it. And that their view is like, no, you didn't read it because you listened to it. So there was a girl that did a video. I forgot when she did it, but it popped up on my feed about how she did not count listening to audiobooks as the same as sitting down and reading a book. And she claims about how, you're not engaging in the text, you're not being able to highlight things that she believes makes someone who has a book in their hand a reader. And people were definitely commenting on the video. Don't do a video like this and not expect some pretty even comments. And I decided to comment on it. And I told her, I said, you do know that listen to someone tell a story is the oldest way that mankind has learnt things. You know that, don't you? And what I mean by that is our ancestors, prior to the invention of books for non-administrative and religious means, was how people learned about their religion. They learned about their gods. They learned about everything. You even had philosophy that was spoken without the use of a book. Or scroll, in this case. Scroll was the earliest form, well, no, kind of in between. Like cuneiform and book. Also, audiobooks are there for people with very severe, like, disabilities. Like, for example, is if they don't have any means to read a book. Like, for example, is if they are blind and they can't sit down and engage in text, they will listen to it on audiobook, or they will read it in Braille. And yes, that is the same thing as reading. Yeah, they're little bumps, but they're words. Those bumps are words. But a lot of people will say that, audiobooks are great for people that are blind, and they are good for people that are blind. You can actually sit down and you can actually listen to an audiobook, and you can stop it and you can go, oh wow, interesting, but no, I think that what that character did was shitty. And you can have a whole debate about, like, what you've read. Or what you listen to. So we have people, you would have a society that maybe 98% of the population was illiterate, or maybe let's be a little more gentle, that 95% of the population was illiterate. And you had things written down for administrative purposes, not for people's pleasure. And so if they wanted to hear a story about whatever their gods had done in the past, they would gather together and they would listen to the priest talk about whatever adventure that particular god or goddess had. Then you have people that would basically tell stories around campfire during the Middle Ages. Illiterate people that had no way to read books, because that was not in their, like, bracket. They would go to the town square, especially in, like, Germany, where the Brothers Grimm heard the stories and dictated them into a book. They would go there and they would listen to stories like Little Red Riding Hood, or what we known as Cinderella, or Snow White, or whatever. And they came together and they listened to these stories orally, without a book. And it was only until later on down the road did people that were not rich, they were required to learn how to read, and then all of a sudden they were able to sit down and read a book. So, you have this distinction between these two groups of people. Now, want to bet that books came out, but people were still listening to stories, indicating, and let's say that, take it back, yeah, that was the case, because I had read somewhere that the Brothers Grimm listened to these oral stories during a time when books were being produced. So that tells me, since that is the case, that Brothers Grimm, who penned the huge selection of huge volume of fairy tales, was listened to it in an age when the rich people had access to books, and the poor were slowly getting access to books. And so you have these small villages that still have a huge illiterate population that is listening to these stories. So what I get, and this kind of tells me a lot about people's thought patterns, is if I read books, it means that I am wealthy, and I'm well-to-do, and I'm well off, and all that wells. And therefore, I am superior to the people that don't have access to books or can read. And then audiobooks are being connected to people that are poor, people that are illiterate, people that don't understand the beauty of a book. So you have these two groups of people, and the people that constantly read a book are the people that can claim in their own mind's eye that they are somehow more sophisticated and more well off than the people that listen to it in the oldest method that mankind has received these stories. It is classism, it is stupid, and it's like, yeah. Oh, okay. Alright. So a publishing house that releases a book first in hardback and in audiobook is somehow, I don't know what you want to call it, but like, oh yeah, they released this book in hardback, and they never ever say the book is released on audiobook. They will sit there and they will say, oh yeah, it's only available in hardback. And then like, well, so it's not available in audiobook? They're like, well, that's not really reading. Okay. Because it's like, I have both, I have the hardback of Dungeon Crawling Carl, I have the ebook of Dungeon Crawling Carl, and I have the audiobook of Dungeon Crawling Carl. Why do I got so many different versions? Because I had the money to do it. But to me, if you are a person who is blind or who wants to listen to a book while they're doing like housework, or you want to listen to a book while you're in traffic, whatever, you should be able to do it. You should not be criticized for, this is how you absorb the written word. This is how you are able to understand the hype around this book, or understand this, understand that. I mean, I listen to audiobooks on YouTube. Like, I was listening to a murder mystery on audiobook last night / early this morning. Does it mean that I didn't read? Does it mean that I don't know what the book is about? Of course not. I know what the book is about. It's a bakery mystery. That's, Of course, I went to sleep, so I went to sleep. But I'm going to actually go back and re-listen to the parts that I was asleep for Tuesday. So, the thing about it is that, I would listen to Dungeon Crawling Carl so that if I missed anything when I was reading the book, I will be able to catch it. And to me, that is important. To me, that's very important. It helps me to understand the story, understand where the characters are going, things like that. I even have All Systems Red by Martha Wells on Spotify, and I listen to that when I'm heading to work. So I really wish that we would stop having these debates. I wish we would stop talking down to people, or make it or make people think that you're an asshole because you want to verbally attack people that read audiobooks, because you just don't get it that there was books have not always been for people's reading enjoyment. Books at one time were important for religious means, and also for administrative, and for other means. Anyways, yeah. So that is my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope that it gave you some food for thought. I'm going to upload this video, and then I'm going to be leaving, because I gotta head to work. I was off today until I was like, she's like, oh, can you work 6 to 2? Okay. Anyways, I'll get my 5. This will be my 5th day, and I will officially be done with my pay period. So I'll be very happy. Alright, I will see you guys around until next time. Be well and keep on reading. Bye.